Well, it's little Tumba that is sitting on the middle of quarantine, so he has endured the sort of movement of hukamuri over the last few days that has come in and out of this area, and he's still sitting in the same sort of section, which is fantastic news. So it's great to have little Tumba around, and isn't that just the most epic way to start a day? Beautiful skies that are pink and purple and lots of little oranges in there, and then this little leopard that is sitting, well, he's not so little, he's actually becoming a big leopard now, is sitting on top of a branch. So you can see Jared moving off in the distance there, so we have to give Jared a big thumbs up. Well done, Jared, high five. And so hopefully little Tumba is going to put on a show for us as he normally does. He seems as though he's full of the joys of life already this morning, which is, I'm sure, the case given that it is nice and sort of cool. It's been a bit of a rainstorm, and so he's just looking around on quarantine as if to say, well, where is everybody? It's very quiet here. And hopefully, like I said, we'll get a situation where he's going to move around during the course of the morning. So, Chitty Chatty Meg, you're wondering if a leopard will eat an impala if it dies from a disease. It depends on what it is. So I've seen impalas that have gone down, that have foaming from the mouth or been bitten by snakes, what appears to be bitten by snakes, and they get left. They don't get touched at all. But then I've seen other impalas that have just died of seemingly natural causes. We don't know if it's a disease or not, and they get eaten quite quickly. So I suppose leopards maybe are intuitive. They see if there's something wrong there, maybe there's a scent to it or something like that that makes them a little bit more wary, and they'll then leave it alone. But he's chuffing at the moment, isn't he? He's certainly moving his whiskers. Maybe it's because the squirrel is alarm calling at him. There's a squirrel that's alarm calling, so every now and then he's kind of just moving his face almost as though he growls at them. It's quite funny because when Franklin's alarm call at him and squirrel's alarm call at him, he, like I say, growls at them, which is quite odd. Most leopards don't do that. Most leopards will just carry on walking and are completely unfazed, but Tumba doesn't like it, so he just growls at them and he lets them know, I don't appreciate you shouting at me. Stop it. Of course, it doesn't stop them in the slightest, but it's always just funny to watch him go about his business and try and kind of ward them off with his growling and hissing. Alyssa, you're wondering how skittish is Tumba? Well, he's not at all. If you have a look at what he's doing there, he's in no way even looking at myself and Senzo, and we are parked, I would say, at the moment, maybe not even 10 meters from where he is. He's very, very close to where we are, and he's not fazed in the slightest by us or anything that's moving around him. So he's one of the more relaxed leopards we've got. What I did say the other day is that he seemed to be a little bit more kind of nervous when 3 vehicles joined than when it was just the one. When it was just the one vehicle by itself, he was really at ease like this. But when 3 vehicles joined, he kind of felt as though he got a little bit more kind of antsy about what was going on. He is a relaxed individual, but I think it's also because he's not being seen nearly as much as what he was over the past sort of few months. He kind of has gone on this wandering loop into Manyeleti and Buffelshoek and Elephant Plains, and he just hasn't been seen as much as he was previously, and so maybe that's why he just kind of is not as used to vehicles as what we would hope him to be. But he's still very relaxed and very chilled with us. And, I mean, you can't get a better leopard sighting than that. It's not like he's even paying any attention to myself and Senzo at all. He's kind of doing his own thing. He's watching the birds and the squirrels and the various other things that are moving around on quarantine. And just also the beautiful sunrise that we've got at the moment. How spectacular is that? He's such a very pretty leopard. And then you can see the sunrise that I was talking about. Hopefully those clouds are going to lift a little bit further. They do still look fairly ominous in places, and the forecast is for a lot more rain that's supposed to come, and so I wonder if we're going to get a little bit more during the course of today as well. Right, while we sit and enjoy the company of Tumba, I'm sure we're going to be with him for the whole morning. Let's send you back across to James, who's got, well, another member of the Big Five and the biggest of them all. Well, yes, I am still with the boulder, and it's quite funny, actually, some of the names of the leopards that we've got here at the moment. So we've got the boulder in the form of Tumba, we've got chicken medicine in the form of hukamuri, and we've got, oh, hello, boy. Morning. Shame, you were just waking up. Now excuse the pole that is going to come into the shot shortly. It's the roof that is on, so we have the roofs on this morning just in case the rain starts. And then we've got the termite mound female. So funny bunch of names that are around at the moment, but I quite like Tumba. I like the name Tumba. It seems to suit him, and the name came about from him being born at Chitwa, and one of the rooms there is known as the Boulder Suite, and that is where this leopard was born, is under the deck of that room, and so that's why he was given the name Tumba. Now, where are you off to, boy? Are you on a mission now? So let's see if we can try and keep up with him. We're going to have to just turn ourselves around, but he was very obliging for a while. First lady, you want to know if leopards like to swim? No, not really. They are much like most cats in that they don't really enjoy getting wet. They have a situation where as soon as they get damp paws, you find that they like flick them and try and kind of get the water off. But that's not to say some leopards don't grow up around water. So I've worked with leopards on the Sand River that absolutely love water and will cross the river often, and hello boy, and will do it with ease, and they'll kind of go through and wade through water, but generally they try and avoid it as much as possible. Obviously it's not ideal to be sort of in water and being wet as a cat. This is so cool. He's such a cool little cat as well. Now you can see he's got a little bit of his kind of sucked in tummy, so he could do with a meal, but he's not skinny in any stretch of the imagination. He's still got really good definition and muscle structure on his hips and shoulders. Now, since I'm going to get round, because we're going to get a really cool angle of him walking down towards us, because it slopes downwards. So if we get into this position here, we should get a really nice view of him kind of angling down towards us, which will be nice. So let's just get round. Of course, now the roof makes life a little bit more difficult, but there we go. That's what I was hoping for. It's a nice kind of flat shot of him walking straight sort of towards our area, and it's almost at eye level. If you have a look at it, he's kind of walking down straight towards us. Oh boy, what are you thinking? He's watching all the birds that are flying about, because I think he's trying to look for a meal. I'm trying to scan around and see if I can see any impalas or wildebeest or something like that that are generally on quarantine, but at the moment I don't see anything, so I don't know where they all are. Maybe because he's been lurking around quarantine, everybody's been getting a fright. But let's see how this goes, because maybe an impala will pop out somewhere and he'll have the chance to be able to hunt. So he's going to walk right past me. It's not even a meter. So you wanted to know how relaxed he is? There we go. That gives you an idea of just how relaxed Tumba is. He's walked not even 3 meters from the car and is not even blinking an eyelid, really. He's just kind of striding away, going down the hill and carrying on past us. Now, let's just loop past him once more and see if we can get another kind of shot of him walking towards us. And so, while we try and kind of figure out where he's going to go and what he's going to get up to, I'm going to send you to Ali, who seems to be, well, also in luck this morning and has found a rather spotty surprise, but not on the ground. Well, he is posing beautifully. He's stopped in the grass and he's just sitting watching down the hill at the moment, and that's because there's some impalas that are not too far from where we are. They're kind of south and west of us, sorry, north and west of us, and he's watching them. They've picked up something was wrong, the impalas, because they saw kind of some sort of movement and then they trotted off, but they haven't started alarm calling yet. I can also see the wildebeest on top here as well, so there are a few animals about, and now he's going to come walking straight at us. How cool is this? He's just kind of striding down the hill straight at us at the moment, which is absolutely epic. Now you see he's stopping again, so he's watching, just looking down to where those impalas are and where the wildebeest are as well, and his tail is twitching, so I wonder if he wants to maybe try and hunt. But what he's going to have to do is try to get himself into a bit more of a thicket before he's going to be able to hunt anything, because otherwise he's going to get seen very easily. It's a situation where he's quite out in the open at the moment. Vumbo girl, you're wondering if Tumba has been seen scent marking like Hosana. No, so he hasn't been scent marking like Hosana yet. It's not to say that he won't in the near future, but for now, no, he hasn't been doing so. I think he's still just trying to keep a low profile, and I'm hoping that he somehow manages to sneak around in this area and stays around Djuma camp, because I'm absolutely loving the fact that he is back in this section and that he's spending time here. This is the second sighting we've had of him in about 4 days in this exact same area. Hello, boy. It's amazing. Even at this distance, we are less than, as you can see, he's walking right behind the car. We are less than a few meters, and you cannot hear him, even though he's moving quite quickly. It is the quiet footsteps that he takes. It is absolutely insane how quiet a leopard can be. Right, while he kind of sits behind our vehicle, I'm going to try and find a better way to reposition without chasing him, because he's still sitting right behind us. And so while we do that, let's send you across to James Hendry, who's got something else that feeds off blood. Well, Tumba is doing his best cute impression that he can do. He's found himself a little open kind of mound that he's just lying on top of and is having now a bit of a rest. I don't know if this is what he's going to be doing for the rest of the day, but he's just lying down, giving us these big, beautiful green eyes and kind of looking at us as if to say, what do you guys want? I'm going to take a nap. I'm not going to be too entertaining this morning, but he already has given us a lot. He's posed on fallen over trees with the sunrise. He's kind of walked through quarantine and, there we go, up again just to see what's going on. And this is why I like spending time with Tumba, is because he's a cat that will lie down for a while and then it's almost like he gets bored of sitting. He's like, I'm tired of this game. I want to get up and go and see what else is happening. And then he'll go and investigate a bush somewhere. Then he'll go and sort of look at a francolin, and then it's time to go and pose on a mound. So he's up and down all over the place. He's never a cat that spits for too long and kind of takes it too easy. He's always kind of got something up, and his eyes are very expressive, and so it's a joy to watch him as he goes about his day. Mary, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there is some sort of kind of feel that he probably would want to be back with Mom, just from a point of view, oh, well done, you're catching flies, good job. So there's a feel that he probably would like to be back with Mom, just from a point of view that she would provide a steady stream of food. But, you know, once that relationship has been exhausted and it kind of gets pushed out, you must remember he's been on his own now for it's almost 5 months. In fact, it's a little bit longer even. And so he's at a situation where he's been away from Mom for so long that he's now probably just gotten used to the life that he's in. I'm pretty sure that he would, like I say, would prefer to be with Mom, because it's much easier if you're with Mom. Mom certainly provides a lot more than he's going to be able to provide for himself. But at the end of the day, it's a situation where, you know, it is what it is, and he's probably just learning to survive the way that he has to without worrying too much about where Mom is or anything like that. Now, excuse me if I'm sniffing a little bit. It's a little bit coolish this morning, so I've got a bit of a runny nose. I don't know why. Maybe it was from being in the rain last night, so I do apologize about that. But you can see he's trying to probably get rid of some of those ticks that he's got on the back of his head. It's at the moment, it's not just him, it's most of our leopards have got these ticks are between the shoulder blades, on the back of the head area, around the ears. With this rain that we've had falling today, last night, that's going to cause a lot of ticks to come out and even more to be around. And in the summer months you find it a lot on our animals to have a high tick load, and then as winter comes, so they're able to deal with it and get rid of them. But you can see there's a few dots in there, 1, 2, 3, that I can see just off the bat, that are all engorged big ticks. Now there'll be others that will be on him as well that will not be as engorged as those, that will be a little bit more difficult to see, but will eventually kind of get to that size. And then once they've fed and they've engorged like that, they will drop off. So even though he's scratching and trying to pull them out, eventually they will go away and he will be kind of tick-free at some point. I suppose they never are fully tick-free, though. It's sort of part of being a cat, unfortunately, or any animal out here, is that you don't get all the ticks off all the time. Carol, you say you think Tumba has the longest whiskers of all the Djuma cats. I think I would agree with you, Carol. He's almost like a catfish in a way. He's got these kind of long whiskers that extend well beyond the side of his face, as you can see there. It's almost past towards his neck. Now, most of the other cats, they're not quite as long as that, so he definitely has a fine set of whiskers, and maybe that's part of the kind of eyelashes. You know, all the ladies out there want long eyelashes. Maybe in the leopard world, long whiskers is what you want. It's maybe a nice trait to have long whiskers, but you can see them there. I mean, they really are very, very prominent, aren't they? It's amazing, actually, how long they are, and you don't really notice it that much until you look at them, but he's got whiskers coming off all over the place, does little Tumba, and he's having a bit of a scratch now as well. Very cute, this little cat. I thoroughly enjoy his company, and it's so nice to have days where we get to see him, like I say, right outside camp, basically. I mean, we could have thrown a rock at camp from where we are. It's right in the middle of quarantine. In fact, actually, where he was sitting when we first found him is at the fireside chat. So it's very, very close to where, we spend a lot of time and very close to camp. So it's nice to have him here, and that fact that we can probably spend most of our morning with him and just follow him about and see what he gets up to. I'm sure it's going to be not just sitting around like this for the majority of the morning. All right. Now, James, who does not want to be undone by all the spots in South Africa, is decided that he's going to get some spots of his own in his life, and has found, well, not a leopard, but something else with lots of spots on it. Well, he's not sleeping, James, but he is getting ready to sleep. He's having a little grooming session, so just getting himself kind of cleaned off. I'm sure there's lots of moisture all over his fur that's become all matted, and probably picked up a few little burrs and parasites as well. So just grooming himself, getting himself ready for a proper nap, I think. He's moved a little bit from where he was. He's just kind of walked in and sort of had a look around and then just decided this is the better spot to lie in. I'm surprised, though, that he's lying here, given that it's so damp and wet this morning. I would have thought that he would have found himself a nice log or a comfy termite mound to go and lie on, and not inside the really wet, damp grass. But maybe he just decided that it's going to be cooler in the grassy area, and that's why he's going to come and lie here. Also, I suppose he's far more hidden in this area, and he's able to then sneak about and not attract too much attention to himself if he's sleeping here rather than on somewhere like quarantine. He's going to have a lot of animals coming past during the course of the day. We're going to have a lot of baboons and elephants and various other things that will feed on the marula fruit that are on quarantine itself. So I suppose it's a better idea to be in this little thicket. Also, from here, you'll find a lot of the impalas and wildebeest and various other things are going to be able to come past, and he's got an area that he can then potentially hunt from, which is, I suppose, good news. But wouldn't you like to be as flexible as that? Put your leg over the back of your shoulders while you're kind of grooming along. So there's one paw, I don't know, he just looks like he's in an absolute tangle because his front paws are kind of behind his back paws, and there's his tail's now getting involved, other paws on the back of his head, and there we go, it's just flopped back down, so it looks a lot better now. But at one point there, it looked like some complicated yoga pose between all his limbs going in every direction. Didn't look very comfortable at all, but I suppose if you're a cat, you're flexible and it's able to do these things. You can see how meticulous leopards are when they groom themselves. I suppose most cats are. They like to kind of really make sure that they get every little bit out of what they are busy trying to do. So, John, you want to know what leopard whiskers are used for? Well, leopard whiskers are there to sense the environment that the leopard is in. And so they have sensory cells on them, and that means that as they walk, they're going to be picking up all kinds of different signals. One is obviously if there's vegetation and various other things that could potentially go towards the eyes. It allows them to close their eyes in time so that they don't get poked by a thorn or, seeds in the eyes and those kind of things. So the whiskers can just help feel their way through, particularly if they're stalking and they've got their head right underneath the sort of layer of grass and they're trying to creep forward. Those whiskers just help to sense what's going on around them. The second reason that they have them is it helps them detect prey animals. So when they are in a situation where they are hunting and they're going after various different things, and it's dark and it's dingy and they're trying to keep a low profile, those whiskers will pick up the vibrations of the animals moving in front of them and just helps them to be able to then kind of work out exactly where to go and where to position and what's coming towards them. So it's basically a sensory organ, much like their nose or their eyes or their ears. It's maybe not as sort of sophisticated as those three senses, but it definitely plays a massive role in helping them figure out their environment and what they're doing and finding food as they go along. Now that tail is looks like almost be bitten through. He's chewing on it so much, but that's because he's probably find there's a little burr or something inside there that he's trying to get. So he uses his incisors to basically get in there and pull off whatever is stuck inside there. So he'll use his tongue for a bit and then the incisors as well. But that tail is getting a thorough cleaning at the moment. Tumba, you're going to have the cleanest tail in the Sabi Sands if you carry on like this. Very cool to see. Still a kid at heart, this individual. Right, now talking about kids at heart, Mr. James Henry is still sitting in the Masai Mara, and well, we know he likes to play around and mess around. I'm sure he would groom his tail the same way, but he's got some buffalo that I believe are having an argument. In my time with Tumba, he's one of my he is one of my favorite animals that we have out here, so it's nice to kind of always get a good sort of amount of time with him and spend sort of quality time around him. He always fascinates me as he goes about things. Now, it seems as though Ellie's having a wonderful sighting of those Ellies as well, and that's my other favorite thing to kind of spend a lot of time with is Ellies as well, so glad that she's managing to see something very cool. Now, while Tumba's sitting up there, there's a few bits of grass blocking him. Since if you can focus on my dashboard for me, please, because there is something that is lurking on my dashboard. So Tumba is looking very regal up there, and we'll get back to him shortly. But if you have a look over here, so there where my finger is, since there is a tiny little green caterpillar that is slowly starting to inch its way up the top of my dashboard. So there we go. And now these little guys have been very few and far between over the course of the last few months because we've had so little rain. It's been difficult to find any caterpillars, but look at how they move. I love how they go about their things. They are called inchworms as well, these green ones. I know that you get some green sort of inchworms like this that are part of the sawfly family, and so they're called a sawfly, but they're not actually a fly, and they form these little caterpillars as well. But it could also be various different moths as well. Very difficult. I mean, I don't know the exact species of this, but I can try and find out. It is probably a young caterpillar as well. It's probably just kind of going about its business. It'll still develop and fatten up and get bigger than what it is, but it's really cool to watch them move about. I love watching caterpillars as they move. They're such cool little things, and the way that they kind of are able to pull their body like that, and that the legs are actually positioned in such a way that they're able to walk, is amazing to me. So you see on the front section there are legs, then the middle section there's no legs. So that little section right in the middle, there's no legs whatsoever, and then the legs at the back, there we go. That's a nice example of it. And oh, where did you go? Oh no, now I've got to be careful where I put my feet because I don't want to squash it. Hold on, we need to action a rescue here. I've got a leopard that is sitting on my left, so I can't really do too much. I don't know, disappeared down in the footwell somewhere, so I'll have to just keep my feet up and away from that area so that I don't squash this little caterpillar. What I'm also going to do is just reposition slightly, because the way Tumba's sitting is there's lots of grass, and if I get round slightly, then I should be able to have a situation where we can see him a little bit better. And while we try and get a better view, it sounds like James has found a cat of his own, and he has amazing views, so we'll have to try and compete with James a little bit and try and get into a better spot with Tumba. Well, I'm sorry, James, that the leopard has come out, well, better than your lion. I feel like you already bashed lions enough this morning, so we thought we'd come to the leopard to make things right in the world. Now, Tumba is looking as good as possibly could be, and we were talking about earlier that I would think that he would be on a termite mound given how wet it is, and so he's found himself a nice little spot, and it almost looks as though he's starting to fall asleep. But doesn't he look like he's on top of the world there? The way that the sort of bank drops off here and then there's a sort of thicket on the other side, kind of looks as though he's sitting almost above the trees at the moment, which is very cool. So he's found himself a perfect spot to take it easy, and I think, oh, are you falling asleep, boy? It's difficult being a poser, isn't it? So he's done all his morning modeling, and now it's almost time to have a bit of a nap. But I think he's going to struggle to sleep this morning because the flies are out of control. You can see his ears twitching every now and then, and his kind of coat twitches because there are flies absolutely everywhere. And I've been dealing with them, and so has Senzo. We've been trying to swat them away and keep them off us. So I can only imagine how they must be irritating him as well. Imagine how sensitive those ears and whiskers and eyes are, and you've got flies landing all over them and no hands. It must be a pretty irritating situation to have. So you'll find with him that he is often kind of moving, and so I don't think he's going to get too much of a snooze in because of these flies for now. Hopefully once the sun gets up a little bit, they'll leave him alone and he'll be able to have a good nap. But very cool to see him on top of the mountain. Look, he's starting to look the part as a male leopard. He's got these sort of big legs, front legs that are developing, and his neck area is slowly but surely starting to kind of get thicker and bulkier, and you can see his sort of head is that male sort of bulkiness that he's got there as well. So he's growing into his ears and into his paws, and hopefully he's going to be a really big individual that will dominate for a long period of time wherever he may end up. I am hesitant to think that Tumba will be a part of our story for the long run, given how many male leopards are around. And look at that, that's beautiful, well done, Senzo. Given how many male leopards are around at the moment, it's going to be really tough for him to stake out a claim in this area. There was a report that Kunuma was seen, actually, funny enough, 2 days ago. It seems as though it's not Kunuma, though. From the spot pattern that's on that leopard, it doesn't seem like it is Kunuma, which then begs the question is, who is this other male that is now kind of moving around? He was seen just south of Chitwa on the Nets Vessels cut line. And so it begs the question, like I say, who is actually here, and why are we seeing so many male leopards moving into this area? It's causing a lot of issues, I'm sure, amongst the females. They're probably having a situation where they're wondering what's going on. And I suppose if Tingana, being the big dominant individual that's been here for so many years, starts weakening, maybe other males around it have just noticed that there's a gap now, and they're starting to all kind of come in. And it's not good for our young boys, because Tumba and Hosana, they were under the kind of protection of Tingana for a large portion of time. And with all these marauding males coming in, it's going to make life for them a lot harder, and they're really going to have to kind of be witty about what they do. So far, though, both of them seem to have managed to do it. So, you know, Tumba is, for me, probably impressed a lot more in that, and I know this might sound odd, but he's wandered a lot further, and there theoretically should have come across a lot more male leopards than what maybe Hosana has done. So Hosana has been very clever in that he's gone into Chitwa and into the heart of Tingana's territory, and he's just stayed around that area, and he's found himself an area on Little Gari and Chitwa where he can go up and down and move around, and he's got water and food. So he's really done a good job in finding a safe spot, whereas Tumba hasn't had that ability. I think Hosana has put pressure on Tumba a little bit, and so Tumba has moved a lot more and has probably come across a lot more leopards or male leopards than what maybe Hosana has, and that may be a good thing in later in life, and Tumba working out how to get around these males. We know that he was here the other day, and Hukamuri was seen just after that vocalizing, heading in his direction. We know that their tracks were on top of each other, moving around here, but yet Tumba is still here and still looking like there's not a care in the world. And it's not like he's got any markings on his face or any sort of damage to that area. So he's obviously knows how to get around these males, and it's probably because the males vocalize, and Tumba then just kind of snakes his way through and tries to keep himself out of the limelight, and tries to stay in places like this where it's a little denser and thicker and not get seen too often. So it's a clever situation, and like I say, it's going to stand him in good stead if he does get kicked out of here, is to negotiate his way through territories of other males before he becomes a dominant individual. Hosana, on the other hand, like I say, he's just been clever in that he's got himself into a really good spot. Hopefully Tingana can carry on and stay in that area for long enough that Hosana gets big enough and bulky enough to challenge. I think if we give Hosana another year, then we're going to have a situation where he's going to be able to definitely kind of stay, well, I don't, definitely is a strong word, but he'll be able to hopefully put up some sort of challenge for the area that he's in. But he's going to have a lot of pressure. He's going to have pressure from his brother in the form of quarantine. He's going to have pressure from Hukumuri, this male that was seen now recently on the vessel and nets area, whoever it may be. He's going to be putting pressure. You know, there's also Anderson that's around. So there's a number of different leopards that are in the mix here, and it's going to make life tough for both Tumba and Hosana. And it certainly is a very uncertain time within our leopard world. We've got females shifting, males shifting, and it kind of feels like it's all up in the air. If you think back a year ago to the very stable Tingana, Karula situation on Djuma, to now, we don't really know what's going on. We've got new females, new males, and it's making everything a little bit different. Look at that, though. Isn't that amazing? So, Linda, you're saying if by chance Shangila were to return, would she be able to lay claim to an area? Well, I mean, theoretically, any leopard can lay claim to an area, but it's whether or not they have the ability to kind of get or chase away whichever leopard is dominant at the time. And I just don't see Tundi and Shadow at the moment being leopards that would stand down to a younger female. As they get older, maybe. So if once we see Tundi and Shadow start getting towards, 14, 15 years old, if they make it that far, they're going to have a situation where you probably find a younger female, which would mean that Shungila would be about, if they were that age, she would be about 5, 6 years old. it should be in the prime of her life, then yes, maybe she could lay a claim to it. But there is the Shidulu female that is here, there is Kuchava that is here, there's the Sibui female that seems to be coming in, so there's a number of other leopards also in the area, females, that will try and lay claim to this section. At the end of the day, we're sitting in an area where we've got the Mulawati drainage, which is prime real estate in this section of the Sabi Sands. And so all the females want the Mulawati section. And the reason why is it's good den site, it's good water, and it's good food. So you'll find there's going to be a lot of competition over that. And we had a situation where we had for many years a very strong female that was able to defend that. But now that she's gone in the form of Karula, you've got all of these other females that are starting to come in and we've got flies everywhere, but starting to come in and starting to compete. So Shadow, Tandi, Sibui, Kuchava, Shidulu, all of these females are going to come together, and we're going to have a situation where it's going to get quite interesting as to who's eventually going to dominate over the Mulawati section and become the proper queen of Djuma. Now I see Tumba is looking very seriously to my right hand side, and I wonder why it is. I think that there's a situation where maybe some impalas are moving around there. You never know, maybe it's the wildebeest. I can't see myself, it's quite dense in front of us, but his sort of angle, the way he's up, he'll be able to see a lot better than what I can. But you see, look at how he's gone a little bit more upright and a bit more sort of watchful as to what's going on, and I wonder if maybe there's something around. So we're going to sit tight with him, see if whether or not he's going to get up and move to that area. Maybe he spotted something that he wants to hunt, but in the meantime, let's send you across to Ali. I'm not sure if the view of the spots at the moment, because Tumba came racing down the mound and he's positioned himself in a thicket, and the reason why is the wildebeest are right here. They're not even, I would say, maybe 30 meters from him. They're in this thicket, so it's difficult to see them. They're kind of just coming past us. There's little calves, obviously Footloose is in there, so we've got to try and root for Footloose as to not get eaten by Tumba. It's a bit of a tough decision here because I've got Footloose and I've got Tumba that I've got to kind of worry about, and both of them have a soft spot, as we all know. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But Tumba is quite far off. I think he missed his chance. He needed to cross this little gap that he was in. So you see in front of us, there is a gap right here. Now that little gap is what he needed to cross and get into this thicket on my right-hand side, which is where he would have been perfectly positioned for the wildebeest to walk straight into him. But the thing is, he's very interested. I can see he's stood up now and he's kind of watching what's going on. So I think he's calculating, where can I go next in order to try and hunt maybe one of these baby wildebeest. If he gets a baby wildebeest, he's done incredibly well. It's a big meal to get, and it's not going to be an easy hunt. And the reason why is that mother wildebeest are very protective of their young, and they will not hesitate to come charging at a leopard to try and chase it. So he's going to have a tough time if he's trying to hunt baby wildebeest. It's not going to be an easy situation, but he certainly is interested. And just look at that camouflage. It amazes me how these leopards are able to disappear. Now he's going to try and slink his way, I think, and use us almost as a barrier. Let's see. No, are you going to lie down there and watch what's going on, Tumba? It seems like it. He's going to just lie flat. I think the wildebeest have passed too far now, and he's not going to be able to get this right at all. I don't think he's going to have a situation where he's going to be able to actually get to those wildebeest. But you would never know there's a leopard there. Even that we know that there's a leopard, and we've zoomed into that picture, you would never, if you were walking along, you would have no idea that a leopard was sitting in that particular position. It's absolutely incredible how well he camouflages. I mean, we can see we've zoomed right in now, and only just can you make out the spots between all of those bits of vegetation. There he is lying right there. So he's watching the wildebeest though, and they are behind me now. I can see them all on the open clearing. The wildebeest are quite clever, is that they're using the open clearing to try and stay away from these thickets, because they know what lurks in thickets. Thickets is danger, and so generally wildebeest try and stay out of them as much as possible. Well, I don't know if maybe it's going to be better if we reposition ourselves slightly, because at the moment we can't see anything of Tumba. I don't really want to disrupt what's going on and give any of them an unfair advantage. I'm just watching where the wildebeest are, just to make sure that they're kind of moving off. They look as though they're quite far away now. So I think what we can do is just try and see if we can sneak forward a little bit and get a better view of Tumba. I have a funny suspicion that we're not going to get much more of him the way that he is at the moment. No, even from here, there's going to be zero to no visual. So let's see. So Judy, you say it is tough to choose between Tumba and Footloose. I know it's not an easy call, is it? The two of them are kind of hold special places for all of us, I'd imagine. Footloose was the most incredible thing to watch, a 3-hour kind of marathon birth for that poor female wildebeest, and then obviously Tumba We just want to see him thrive and kind of get really into life and start hunting as well as what we see from Hosana, because Hosana seems to be kind of king of hunting when it comes to the two boys. Tumba definitely hasn't mastered the hunting nearly as well as what Hosana has as yet. It's not to say that he doesn't kill things, but we've not seen the frequency of kills with Tumba as we have with Hosana. Hosana's had, impalas, this baby buffalo, and multiple impalas, duikers, steenbok. He kind of seems to have really come of age and is figured out how to hunt these large animals, whereas Tumba, to me, seems as though he's a lot more focused on smaller things like squirrels, tortoises, terrapins, those easy meals, and he hasn't quite got that technique, I don't think, for the bigger animals just yet. He will, of course, get there. It's part of a learning curve, and he's in no way in bad condition. So whatever he's doing, he's finding whatever is necessary to keep him nice and fit and strong and healthy. It's not like he's a skinny, kind of wasted away animal. He's still got a bit of a sort of roundness to him, and so he's definitely figuring it out. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's catching a lot of things like scrub hares and those kind of things just to sustain and supplement his diet while he tries to figure out the way of hunting bigger animals like these wildebeest calves and impala females. Now, he's in a situation where he's got good genes for it, because I've seen his proposed dad, which is Tingana, going after wildebeest many times and was very successful in catching wildebeest, particularly these calves. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Tumba gets that way as well. But he's slowly going to creep forward. I'm not going to move. I know we're not going to get much of a visual of him and we're not going to see much of him, but what I want for him is to get into a position where he feels comfortable first before I move the car. At the end of the day, as much as we want to watch these hunts and see these things play out, it's also about being respectful to both sides of the coin. And so I don't want to have a situation where I blow his cover, or I chase the wildebeest, or push the wildebeest in any way towards him that ends up in a result that's been influenced by us. So what I want to do is just wait for him to get into a spot where he's going to settle a little bit, and then I'm going to probably do a wide loop and try and just sit where we can try and see maybe both of them, and then from there we'll hopefully have a much better view. But you can see he's intrigued and he's interested. The way he drops his head like that, ears facing forward, eyes, he wants to go and hunt these wildebeest, but he's trying to figure out how he's going to go about doing it. He's working out, I think, where he needs to position himself in order to hunt. The wildebeest, funny enough, are actually coming back towards us, so they're moving now sort of northwards parallel with this thicket on quarantine. So if he positions himself, if he can just get across this open section and into that thicket again, I reckon he can get himself into a fairly good place where if he just... He is on the move again. You can see he's getting a lot more serious now. Look at how he's getting low to the ground. The wildebeest are on the other side. I don't think he's got much of a chance now because he's left the wildebeest drift too far away from this thicket. But let's try and keep up a little bit with him. I'm going to try and get into a situation where I can just get onto the road and therefore not create too much noise for either Tumba or the wildebeest. But I'm going to do that by going quite wide around them. I don't want to try and sort of get into a situation where I'm disturbing either one. But it's very cool to see him kind of go about it. As soon as the wildebeest all turned their backs, he was immediately kind of looking and wanting to get closer towards them. So amazing to kind of watch him think about what he's doing and kind of process things. And he went from being quite relaxed, just sort of surveying what was going on, to immediately down, and then he was like a little arrow going straight forward, and he got low to the ground and then kind of went through as fast as possible. Now this roof really doesn't make things very quiet at all, but anyway, we'll try and... So you see the wildebeest right on the edge now, and I wonder if you see the babies are all in the middle, so it's the adults that are out on the edge here, and that's going to make things quite difficult for Tumba. Now I've got to try and find where he is, because he should be on this side somewhere. Can you see him, Senz? So Senzo says he can see him. Is he all right, Senzo? There he is. I can see him now as well. Now, Jacqueline, you're wondering if I've ever seen two leopards hunting together. Once. And it was a complete fluke. It was a situation where Tingana and a female by the name of Moya, or Nanga female is also her other name, they were mating, and they were kind of walking together all over the place. And as they were going about their business and mating and doing their thing, they stumbled across this sort of 1.5-2-year-old giraffe that they then managed to chase down and Tingana did most of the work, and he kind of grabbed it on the throat area, but because he grabbed it on the throat, Moya then came and kind of toppled it from jumping on the back, and that's how it came down. So it's the only time I've ever seen two leopards go after something together, and even then we only figured it out by looking at the tracks. So what we kind of came around the corner and the giraffe was down and kicking, and the two leopards were there, but from the tracks we could see that he kind of went after it, and then there was a scuffle and she jumped on, and then the giraffe fell, which was pretty insane to see. So it's the only time I've heard of cooperative hunting in a leopard or leopard species. So it doesn't happen very often. Now, Tumba is drifting there. I don't want to move from where we are. We're not going to get much of a view of him for the next little bit unless he starts to come through the thicket a bit, which I don't think he'll do. I think he's going to kind of keep himself on that right-hand side. The wildebeest are all feeding here. If I drive forward, they're going to start running away and start moving off. But that's what he'll be targeting, is that wildebeest. He's not going to be going after the bigger ones, I don't think, although it's not unheard of for them, not unheard of them trying to go for these sort of sub-adults as well. I know of a male called the Campan male at the similar age of Tumba, went after one of those bigger wildebeest that are off to the right-hand side and managed to successfully kill it, which is pretty insane. Now, Patrick, you're saying Tumba is looking for a gnu meal? And the jokes continue. We've had many a corny joke this week. Rebecca, Jared, and now you, Patrick. But anyway, I suppose it is not too bad. We'll have a little chuckle at it. How about that? That's what we're going to do. Now, I want to just sneak slightly forward because I want to just see, there's a little gap that maybe we can just see where Tumba is at the moment. Problem is this is how you lose a leopard very quickly, because there he is, we can see him again. Is the pole in the way, Sense, or are we good? I think the pole's going to be directly in the way. No, there it is. So we're perfect. So there's Tumba just sitting in the thickets, still watching these wildebeest. Like I say, his chance of getting this right is almost zero, given where the wildebeest are and where he is. He's got to cross a complete open section to get to those little calves, and he's not fast enough. He's not the speed of a cheetah to be able to get to those calves before they get away from him. So he would need those calves to come, I don't know, maybe 30 meters closer towards him for him to be able to really have a good shot at this. But you never know. Maybe he gets it right. Stranger things have happened. I've seen Mvula hunt on an open area like this successfully and get it right. I've seen Tingana do it, and so you never know. It might happen for him. I think in the cover of darkness it would be a lot easier than it would be now in this kind of brighter light. But let's see how we go. Like I say, I mean, you never know. Maybe something happens. But it's interesting to watch Tumba going about it, and it certainly shows that there is intent for him to find food. Now, I wonder if he came across that dead impala, which is on the opposite side of quarantine to where we are. So dead impala is closer towards the camp, whereas we're on the sort of southwestern side of quarantine. I wonder if he came across that impala, if he'd feed on it, or if he would just leave it alone, or if kind of the youthful exuberance is to try and just hunt, even though he might not get this right. It's almost like practicing and trying to see whether or not he can actually get what he's looking for. But there you go. You can see the rest of the wildebeest are all kind of lined up like this. So it's a long, long way for a leopard to travel. If this was a cheetah, I would say that we would be in for an imminent chase. But when it comes to a leopard like this, it needs to close the distance a lot more than what we're seeing here. And the wildebeest direction doesn't lend itself to going towards Tumba. Tumba needs to almost get round these wildebeest onto the other side so that they kind of drift straight into him and he's able then to grab them. But for now, the situation, he's going to have to try and kind of wait and see which way they go. Now, Senzo, did you say you could see him moving? So apparently he's moving. There goes a scrub here that's just bolted out of the bush as well. So lucky scrub here, that's made a good escape. Is he moving that way, Senzo? Oh, there he goes. Yes, I can just see him. Look at that camouflage. Isn't that incredible? Look at how he's just peeking over. So we were talking earlier about the whiskers. This is where the whiskers help play a part, because he's going to be trying to keep his eye on what's going on, and the whiskers will be feeling what's happening. Now you can see he's walking gingerly, so he's going as slow as he can, and he's checking where he's putting his feet, keeping his head nice and low, and just using the thicket to kind of move along. Now, a wildebeest does have a very keen eyesight, and he's going to have to be a bit careful the way that he does it, but he certainly is melting in and blending in pretty well at this stage. Absolutely amazing. Very cool to see. So he's just hopefully going to round out that bush and then come through onto the other side. So Sally in Oregon, you're wondering if Tumba's just practicing, even though there's not really much of a chance. So I mean, there's an element of that. Every time he hunts, he's learning from it. Whether he's consciously making that decision that I'm going to practice on these wildebeest, and if it comes right, then it comes right, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't think so. I think he really intentionally wants to try and kill a wildebeest. But what he's doing is he's having a situation where he's probably thinking to himself, well, I'm going to try my luck, and if it comes right, yes, that's great, but I want to kill a wildebeest, and I've got to practice to try and get to that wildebeest. And so he's learning how to hunt all the time, but he definitely wants to kill it. It's not like he's kind of unfazed by what the outcome is. He wants a meal, and he's going to try his very best to get a meal. But if he doesn't get it right, he'll learn from his mistake, and then he'll try again another day, and that's how it kind of goes on. And that's how they become these skilled hunters. Also, some leopards are better hunters than others, so we know that some leopards will specialize in warthogs and various other things. Is he coming out there, Sens? Can you see him? So he's coming along. There we go. You see him there? Now, the wildebeest are still far. They've drifted a little bit further than what I thought they would have, but he's slowly kind of going towards them. And I think what he needs to do is he needs to go after these calves, because the calves are inexperienced. They're the ones that are not paying attention. The adults are all facing away, and the calves are actually quite isolated at the moment. So the calves are just here off on my left-hand side, and where he's going, if he can kind of get through to that thicket across the road without anybody noticing him, so if he can get into there, then he's got a situation where he's got a direct access to those calves without any adult in the way. So it's going to be interesting to see. There he comes. He's coming out of the thicket now. So now he's got a kind of a bit of a dilemma. A little bit to your left, I think, Sans. There he is, yeah. So he's got a dilemma now as to what does he do. Does he do a little make or break and kind of trot over? But there's one wildebeest that's watching him, I think. There we go. There's one wildebeest that's onto the fact that there's something moving here. But look, he's using the thicket between him and the wildebeest to try and get closer. This is so cool to watch. Right, there he goes across the road. Look, he's leopard calling. So I think, Kirst, we can do an action broadcast, although the wildebeest are all coming now. Hold on. They've already spooked. So he's unfortunately not done the job. So he's just too out in the open is what the problem is. You can see the wildebeest are now very aware that something is up, and now they're starting to snort. So he'll hopefully just stay lying down, because I don't think they can see exactly where he is, but they definitely noticed something. Listen. No, they're not going to do it, are they? There we go. You hear that snort? So that snort is when they see a predator. That's when they make that noise like that. And Tumba's just trying to keep his head down at the moment. He's trying to stay as camouflaged as possible and try and keep hidden. I don't think the wildebeest know 100% where he is, but they can definitely spot something. Very cool to see. It just goes to show how difficult it is for these leopards to try and hunt on quarantine. It's why we don't see many kills on quarantine. It's because without the sort of use of others or the darkness, it becomes insanely tough. You know, where the wildebeest are as well, as they're much higher than Tumba at the moment, so they're going to be seeing down into the grass, and they'll be able to spot him. Even though from our angle it looks like he's well hidden, from their angle they'll probably be able to see the top of his head quite well. And it's amazing how the wildebeest reacted. You see how they all came running to where the calves were, and they've now created a barrier between them and the calves. The calves are all sitting in the middle, and the wildebeest themselves are all, the adults are all on the edges, trying to just kind of protect them. So there you go, the calves in the middle over there, and then all the adults to the front side just to protect. So all those adults were actually far away, and they came running in between those calves to try and almost create a barrier between them. It's absolutely amazing to watch how organized they can be when it comes to these kind of things. But the hunt is effectively over now. The wildebeest know something's up. They're alarm calling. They can probably sense he's here or see him, and so they're going to, you know, be very wary now, and they'll probably push off further on to quarantine a little bit further away and try and stay away from this section. And poor Tumba, unfortunately, will have learned from that. But like I say, he left it too late. If he had been this sort of... Addy's got a few little gremlins aboard, so you are back with us, and Tumba has gone into, well, I don't even know what to call this, but a thicket. Let's call it that. I've actually lost him already because I'm trying to kind of negotiate through here, but I can't see anything, and I'm a bit worried that I'm going to drive directly over where he's sitting, because you never know with him. He kind of just lies down right underneath the bush, right in front of you, and then you've got a situation where you kind of drive towards him. So hopefully he's not behind this bush. No, he would have run out by now. Sens, do you see anything? So we lost him coming in here 2 minutes ago. The good news is that I've seen something that's going to make Taylor McCurdy very, very happy, because I just saw Daryl the elephant on quarantine as well. So I'll try and go and find him if we lose Tumba now and go and spend some time with Daryl. We know that Taylor absolutely loves Daryl the elephant, and he's got a big hole in his ear. That's how we know who he is. Where did he go, Sens? Tumba, where did you go, boy? I'm going to try and head down this way. I don't think we could have lost him that quickly. I doubt that he would have run anywhere. Let's just check that he's not come down this side. No, nothing there. Tumba, what have you done? It seems as though Tumba's given... there he is, I can see him now as well. Well done, Senzo. So he's just down the drainage line, sneaking through the thicket, which I suppose is the case when a whole bunch of wildebeest are shouting at you and running after you. I would also be going into a drainage line and just trying to kind of stay away. So what we'll do is we'll spend some time with Tumba now, just see where he ends up, just so we can know where to look for him this afternoon. And then once we've done that, we'll go and have a little time with Daryl the elephant, because I know Taylor will be very happy to see him, and a lot of you. It's an elephant that many of you will actually know, so it will be a good animal to go and spend some time with him and go and see him. I believe he was on the dam cam yesterday, and so that makes it quite nice for a lot of you as well. Now I wonder if he's going to go drink water here, because there's a nice bit of water that's right here. Can I get down here? Yes, I should be able to. You see where he is? 1 o'clock. Okay, perfect. Oh, there he is up on the top. So no, he's not. Have a look at that for a view of a leopard, and then the sort of landscape that follows. Are you going to be a good boy and lie on top for us? Oh, there we go, Tumba. Well done, boy. Except that you've lay exactly where there is a protrusion. Hold on, Sense. Let's just reposition here. Because he's lying not in an ideal situation. He's lying where I didn't want him to lie. But anyway, it's okay. Is there? Am I right there, Sense? Now, with these roos, I can't see anything when I reverse. So I don't want to have a... No. Okay. So we can't go that way. We're going to have to go around the other way. Let's do a big loop like this. Come on, Rusty. Round you go. And we should be in a good position fairly shortly. And what about... How's that, Sense? That's as good as one could ask for. I think so. Like I say, a perfect little mound for a leopard to sit on, isn't it? It's kind of open and clear, and it's just got the right shape for a leopard, and the sort of setting that it's in, because of how open it is all around it, it kind of just feels really cool to see a leopard on here. And it's a very popular one. Like I say, Hukumuri sits on here whenever he walks past, and so does Tandi as well. Mr. Baked Bagel, you want to know if there's a correlation between leopard and cheetah tears. I'm not quite sure what you're asking, because, you know, we don't... I mean, if you're referring to the black markings under the eyes, the tear stripes that they've got, well, no, there's no correlation, because as you can see on a leopard, they don't have tear stripes. So cheetahs are the ones that have the tear markings that come down, whereas a leopard has just the whitish kind of marking underneath the eye. And the reason why cheetah have black is to try and reduce glare, whereas leopard have lighter colors to try and bring light into the eye, because most of their hunting is at night, versus the cheetah's kind of predominantly diurnal hunting, which it seems as though in the Masai Mara is complete nonsense, because the cheetah there often are hunting at night as well. So, but yes, there's no correlation. As you can see, this leopard has no tear mark that comes down. He's got dark markings and spots, but there's no tear stripe that the cheetah's got coming down on his face. He's got a very different kind of marking on his face at the moment. So no correlation in that regard at all. In the markings that you see around eyes, though, will indicate how the animal moves and what it gets up to. So if it's a predominantly diurnal hunter, then it's going to have more dark markings under the eyes. If it's a predominantly nocturnal hunter, then, or animal that moves at night, then lighter markings under the eyes. Oh, that was a very, very vigorous shake, Tumba. Well done. If there was a fly on you, it has now been thrown to the next game reserve in the Manyeleti, probably, because he's just shaken himself silly, really. Right, Tumba, what's your move from here? Are you going to spend the day here? I would very much like for you to spend the day here, because it would make my life a lot easier, or Ali's life. I'm sure Ali will want to come see Tumba this afternoon, to find him atop of this mound. It's a nice, easy access to this mound, so it would be very, very kind if he did stay here. The problem is that it looks like the clouds are breaking up a little bit, and so maybe there'll be a bit of sun. And if sun comes out, Tumba is definitely not going to stay here at all. He's going to have a situation where he's probably going to have to move, because he's going to get baked if he stays on top there. There's no shade on this mound whatsoever, so he'll probably have to do a bit of moving if that's the case. But it looks as though he's going to groom himself now to settle down for a little bit, although we've been saying that all morning and he just keeps getting up and moving. Right, now, while I sit here and see whether or not Tumba decides to spend his day on this mound, let's send you across to Ali and see whether or not she's had any more luck with Shidulu. Well, we are having luck, because he's still sitting on top of the mound looking ever so regal and giving us a real show. Yawn, scratch, see, men can do two things at once, and I'm with Ali. I quite like the Huku Dulu name. Can you imagine? It would be quite funny. Chicken mound would be, yes, quite ridiculous, but we're in the realm of ridiculous at the moment anyway, so we might as well just continue with it. At least it will be a good matchup to Not Barbara as well. So there's kind of great names floating around for leopards at the moment. It's thoroughly entertaining. And of course, in all seriousness, we're going to have to try and sort, Not Barbara's name out, because I don't think anyone's actually given her a name as yet, which is a bit of a shame, because I would have thought by now she would have been given something. Now, Tumba, what's wrong, boy? He's very restless this morning. He's kind of looking around. I think he's hungry. I think he wants food, and he's kind of looking and trying to just scan everywhere, and the ticks are driving him crazy. He keeps trying to scratch the back of his neck, and there's actually blood all over the back of his neck from where he's been scratching. He's kind of pulled one or two of those ticks off, and that's left him bleeding a little bit, and so he's got lots of blood that's kind of formed there. Okay, Tumba, I'm going to come round and try and follow him and see where he gets going now, because I was hoping he was going to spend time on the mound, but alas, it doesn't seem so. So, ML, you say you just wish the huge tick on his eye would drop off. ML, I'm with you. It's, Tumba's got such a pretty face that the tick on the eye is not exactly ideal, is it? We would rather he not have the tick on the eye. And imagine how irritating it must be to have a tick on your eyelid all day long. It must be a serious frustration. Right, let me just get around now. Lorna, you're wondering about ticks and whether there's a purpose for them in the ecosystem? Well, in my mind, no. They're just an irritation that cause mass amounts of itching and just kind of cause havoc wherever they go. They ruin our pretty cats and also make our legs look as though we have some sort of skin disease. But I suppose there must be a function for them. They provide certainly a lot of food for many, many animals. So, without them, we wouldn't have oxpeckers, we wouldn't have various other, insects that prey upon ticks and various other birds and things. So I suppose without them, there would be a bit of a sort of gap in terms of a food chain. But I mean, for me, I have no like of ticks or love of ticks at all. They certainly feel the opposite way for me, because if I go anywhere near a tick, I am ended up covered in big red welts all over the place, whereas many others don't get that. I know that Steph is like me, also gets absolutely hammered, whereas Brent, for some reason, ticks just have a phobia for Brent. I'm not sure why. I wonder if it's maybe that long hair of his or something. I don't know. But I get absolutely punished by ticks, and it's not very fun at all. So, they do have a role in the ecosystem. Everything out here has a role, but I certainly don't like them at all. Anyway, while we contemplate ticks and the liking of them and what they actually get up to, let's send you across to James, who, well, has followed his feathered friends to their home, and I wonder what's happening at the Hammerkop nest today. James got a few gremlins aboard that are giving him some trouble. At least Tumba is posing as, well, good as anyone could ask for. Is that even proper English? No, probably not. As well as anyone could ask for. He is sitting eye level with us at the moment on top of a termite mound, and it's just absolutely beautiful. He's kind of watching what's going on. He every now and then gives a little gaze up into the sky as he watches some of the birds come past, and various other things that are happening around him. You know, he can't keep his eyes from looking at things, and now he seems to have locked on to something. He's decided, no, there he goes. What have you seen, Tumba? Because you're now trotting as though you've seen something. Oh, here we go. It just doesn't stop. Every time you guys come to us, he decides to run off. I don't know why. He sits nicely on a mound, and then as soon as there's somebody that needs to, well, as soon as we need to sit and watch him, he goes running off again. So I don't know what he's seen, but he's definitely seen something. Let's just try and get to where he is. He's run quite far already. I'm trying to get through all of these thickets with this roof, which is not ideal. There he is. He's on the road now, and he's kind of moving southwards again. You can see why he's a tough cat to actually find, because his movement is a lot. He doesn't sit still. He's not like Hosana, who's fairly kind of slow and methodical about what he does, and kind of Hosana just goes from one place to another and is very, very sort of predictable in a way with his movements, whereas Tumba is the complete opposite. He's just kind of all over the place. He'll go south, and he'll go north, and he'll go east, and he'll go west, and he moves quite quickly. You can see he's kind of striding his way down the road, and it's not like he takes long to get to wherever he's going. The other thing is that he's very aware of his environment, so he seems to pick things up very quickly, and then off he goes straight away towards it. Now, I have a feeling he might be heading to another termite mound that is just here as well, that he might be going up onto. So I'm just going to go ahead of him quickly, just to see if he is going to head in that direction. He should. The game path does take him generally in that way. He's stopped for now, though. Let's just see. I wonder if there maybe isn't something here that he's stalking. Just want to see. So the mound that I'm talking about is on where this big tall tree is over here. Where's Tumba? He should be coming through on the right side. Don't see him now. Looks like he's stopped behind us a little bit. Let's check. Sorry, the mound's actually on our... Oh, there is a mound there, that's right. That is the one I was thinking of. So there's one on my left and one here. This tall one is the one I was thinking of. But it's not as big and as impressive as some of the other mounds we've been on today. Do you see him now, Sens? It was just on my right-hand side here, so he should be coming this way. This is what happens when you try and be a little clever and try and get ahead. You get to lose them very quickly, which is not ideal. So I'll try and see if I can find him. While I do that, let's send you back across to Ali, who hopefully is going to get a break in her luck and find that Shadulu after searching all morning. Found Tumba again now. He's on top of a termite mound, but I'm just trying to get ourselves into a better position, because the way he was lying was kind of facing a funny way, and with the poles that we've got, it makes it a little bit more difficult for us to actually get a proper view. So Senzo, just tell me when you've got the gap there, because the pole is such a... we're good there. There we go. So the pole is out the way now. These roof poles. This cloud and rain must go away, because the roof drives me crazy. But anyway, it's fine. It's a necessary evil, if you want to call it that, because otherwise, well, we're not going to be able to show you anything if it starts raining, because everything's going to get wet and damaged. So rather have the roof than anything else. Now you can see Tumba again is on the mound that we were talking about. This is underneath that big tall tree that we were referring to. It just took a rather roundabout way to get here and kind of went back onto the road first and then decided to come towards this tree, and now he's sitting and grooming himself once again. He must be the cleanest cat in the Sabi Sands, because I think this is about the 6th time he's groomed himself in the space of this morning's drive. Every time he stops, he does this full-on grooming, and I'm wondering if he maybe just positioned himself here because at least there's a little bit of shade from this tree if the sun does come out. It is seriously uncomfortable though this morning. It is hot, it is humid and muggy. It feels like this rain is about to come down at any second, and it's actually not very pleasant at all. It's a kind of that horrible humidity where you move and you start to perspire, which is not ideal. So I'm sure as a cat it must be a little on the uncomfortable side, given that, you know, they've got this fur coat, which imagine wearing a thick jersey in humid weather. It can't be the most pleasant thing. But I am hoping this is where Tumba will eventually relax for the day, because otherwise from here, finding him will be quite tough. There's a few spots that I would imagine he'll go to, but it's not going to be very easy. If he does move from this position, it's going to be a little harder to find him. While we kind of see if Tumba does decide to move, if he's going to behave himself and sit on the mound for the rest of the morning, or if he's going to actually carry on, let's send you back across to James, who's got something that is not spotty, but rather has very interesting stripes. Indeed, I am with the rock, although the rock is on the move again. He's decided to move. There's a scrub here that's just run. And impalas on that side. Okay, so he's hunting impalas. That's what he's busy doing. No wonder he's moving. All right, let's try and figure out where I'm going to park you, because he should be on... The rock gathers no moss. Exactly, Jared. He is a mobile creature. He cannot afford to get mossy, as that will impede his ability to find these impalas. Now, where has he gone? Because he was here. There he is. Ooh, that's quite nice, actually. He's kind of, look at this, look at the pose he's in. He's kind of got this very, very cool pose where he's down low to the ground and he's just kind of stalking forward. How cool is that? He's got it really kind of very low at the moment. That's very cool. He's definitely stalking these impalas. So whether or not he's going to get this right, I'm not quite sure, because at the moment the impalas are down in the drainage and they've got a long way to kind of go. So he's got a situation where he's going to have to try and get himself a little closer. There he goes. You can see, look, he's gotten himself into a situation where he's obviously figured out he can get down into this drainage. So he's dropping just down below the car, and he's probably going to stop right here when he tries to work out now where he wants to go. The impalas are just through on my right hand side on this thicket. You can hear them now. Listen. I think they spotted him. Look how he's trying to sit down. You see, there we go. So he's just dropping his bum down. Now I don't want to start, because if the impalas have seen some sort of sign, there we go, you can hear them calling now. If I start, I'm going to certainly make more attention, sort of be drawn towards him. So what I'm going to try and do is just go back slightly. Hopefully that's not going to alert anybody to his presence. But now he's got a situation where he's just sitting down. And I've also got another friend here as well. There's so many insects in this car this morning. It is quite something. Okay, buddy, but you can't jump all over me. So I've got a jumping spider, or a Salticidae, that is jumping all over the place here and spinning webs as it's doing so. It's a really pretty spider. So I actually want to try and show you guys. Sense, is that too close? I'm going to try and just... No, don't jump around. You're jumping too much. Come on. That way. There we go. So it's jumping about on my jersey, which is this beautiful, like I say, it's a beautiful Salticidae, which means they are jumping spiders. No, you can't go down my shirt. No, that's not on. Okay, let's get you off. Come. No, that's my leg. Oh, goodness. Into my shoe. So we'll try and carry on, try and see. Now, Tumba, I don't think is going to get any luck with these impalas, unfortunately. They've definitely seen him because they've been shouting, and I can see them drifting away through the thicket now. They're going away from us. So I don't think he's going to be hunting them with any degree of success. Spider off my leg. And so I think probably have a situation where he's going to lie down like this and then reposition himself, and hopefully we'll have a situation where he'll at least come right during the day when we're not bothering him. But it is that time, though, where we're going to start heading back to camp. It is time for Amanda's breakfast, and so we're going to head off there. Hopefully this afternoon. There's lots of interesting prospects around, with Tumba being around hunting. We've got Shadulu, who apparently has made this mystery kill somewhere that we need to try and find as well. And, well, there's lion tracks and buffalo tracks too, so you never know what's going to happen. But from Ali and James and Kirsten FC and myself, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hope to see you all this afternoon on our sunset safari.